Welcome back to What Arty Noobs for General Disturbance. This is a Charioteer. It's a Tier 8 British turreted tank destroyer. It's located on the south spawn of mines and it's under the command of Deathnub. Now this tank destroyer can have the 105mm gun, the top gun. Let's see, yes he has got it. 390 Alpha, penetrating 268mm with standard APCR, and with the HISH rounds it will do 480 Alpha, but it penetrates 210mm, and with HE it's only 480 plus 105mm. Okay, he's aiming towards the hill. Well, this tank is actually a conversion of the Cromwell. First shot misses the Progetto 46 on his way in. Standard reload is 9.68 seconds, and he's got a, well, that's with the 105, and he's got a reload of just under 8, 7.99. Now the standard gun for the Charioteer was in actual fact a 20-pounder. It's an 83.4mm gun, quite a good one at that. The project for this tank was actually known as the FV4101 tank, and it was supposed to be an upgraded Cromwell. It's basically a Cromwell hull, but with a new turret on and a much bigger gun. And of course the bigger gun meant that they had to enlarge the turret of the Cromwell, otherwise it just couldn't fit it in. It was just too cramped. Now they built between 200 to 442 Cromwells were converted into the Charioteer, and most of those are actually stationed out in Germany against the Soviet threat. Of course, the 105mm gun was very good at taking on tanks such as IS-3s, because it was basically the same gun you get in a Centurion 7-1, the Tier 9 British medium tank. It's the L7A1. He's not getting any joy at the moment. Only that one shot on an IS-2M so far for 378. The enemy does have the top of the hill, but I'm not sure how long they're going to keep it, because our guys are now starting to go through the entrance, and it looks like the enemy is going to have a tough time on their hands trying to repel our guys. In fact, one of their tanks, the Black Dog, decided to try and leave, but unfortunately it didn't work out too well for him, and his the player name, Bloodthirsty, actually went down, so he's out the game. We're 2 up on the enemy at the moment. I have the feeling Deathnub's decided he's needed elsewhere, and this is where he's needed. The IS-3A is trying to come around the corner there. The side of the turret, easily penetrated for 395. That's a high roll. Can you get the side of the turret again? If he could, will, if this guy stays like this. And there's only 6 hit points left, and that guy's out the game, taken out of it by an AMX 1357 with that nice little pop gun. Yes, Jingles did a replay just the other day, which he called Pepe Le Pew Pew, which we thought was quite funny actually, because of course, as you know, Fifi Le Pew Pew is the Leffy, the 105 Leff H18B2, and we did have a Pepe Le Pew Pew version, which was actually a skin that you could actually turn into Pepe Le Pew, which of course is the skunk who thinks that has fallen in love with a cat. Nothing wrong with calling a tank Pepe Le Pew Pew though, because of course that little tank does fire a lot of rounds, so it pews a lot at the enemy. It just amused us that now even Jingles was calling a tank a pew pew. Oh no, this is good. 263 trying to make its way across. Not gonna withstand these rounds. That's a low roll, 387. It's a 283 actually, not the 263. That's the reward tank that of course they gave out if you managed to get enough tokens and were able to get be lucky with the machine. I actually did get one on one of my accounts, but I didn't get them on the other. I just got reinforced on the others. He's having a quick look. Somebody fired at him. Didn't get to see who it was, but he blocked a shot, which is unusual because the Cromwell doesn't have much in the way of armor. The best armor front of the vehicle is 63.5 millimeters, 46 at the sides, 38 at the rears, and the turret, well, that's only got 30 millimeters at the front, 25 at the sides, and 30 at the rear. So it's not a very heavily armored tank. It's very vulnerable, and that oversized turret does stand out a lot. The one unusual thing about the Charioteer, though, is that it does actually have a counterweight in the rear of the turret, which is well able to block enemy shots fired at the rear. So if you can actually get somebody to shoot at the rear of your turret, you'll actually block the shot. It's a huge counterweight to counter the mass of that huge 20-pounder gun. Of course, in the game, it's got the 105mm, which is not the standard gun that was actually armed with. The 20-pounder will actually do 230 alpha, so it's quite a big jump from that to the 390 alpha on the 105mm. It may have been a SU-130PM who actually fired at him, but there is an SU-122-44, and I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to carry out an assault directly. All tree went down, so I think we know where that SU-130PM is at the moment. You find a blind shot just in the off chance he might connect. I would expect the SU-122-44 to try an assault because he has got that very, very well angled front to his vehicle, which would actually block some shots that are fired, and maybe he's not feeling so comfortable because, after all, he doesn't have much in the way of hit points left. We're one down on the enemy at the moment. They have been doing rather well. And we're kind of spread out. Deathnub is holding this side of the map all on his own against at least 2 enemy tanks, possibly 3, because there's a Challenger right at the back who hasn't come into sight yet. He was on that raised plateau just above their cap area. Oh, now what have we got going on here? We just lost our Viz 44-1, so now we're down by 2. Deathnub's decided he's going to cover this corner here to try and stop them coming through the center. Okay, it's a T-30 there. Of course, now would be the time the SU-122-44 decided that he wanted to come up this route. And he's actually got the SU-130PM coming in that direction as well. So again, he's decided to change position. See if he can get a shot on that SU-130PM, but we know the guy is going to try and come in by the south route. Now, because he's not close enough, he might not be able to proximity spot Deathnub until it's too late. So he's going to let the guy in through the door. Then the moment he spots him, he knows that the SU-130PM has spotted him too, and then he can get his shots in. The SU-130PM has got a fairly long reload time. He's got a 13cm gun. He's also got very thin armor. Oh, it's the SU-122, but he takes care of him with one shot. And now I expect the SU-130PM to come around that corner. We're down to 3 left on either team. Oh, he took care of the SU-130PM as well. So he's gone. And now it's 3 versus 2. So it's turned the battle all the way around, those 2 kills. And now Deathnub's decided he's going to move forward. He's going to push. This isn't particularly fast, Cromwell. Cromwell's normally much faster than this. 52 kilometers an hour is top speed on this one. And they just took care of the 703-122. The enemy. So unfortunately now we're down to 2 versus 2. They've got a heavy tank. We've got a heavy tank. Theirs is a Tiger 1. Ours is the TNH 105-1000. Of course, Tiger 1's got the 88mm gun, whereas our guy's got the 105. Oh, we can easily pen this one. He does. Yep, no problem. Of course, the Charioteer was designed in an age when they still actually had Tigers on the enemy team for real. Of course, it never actually got put into production until after the war. It was produced during the 50s, this version. It's got a Meteor engine as its main motive force, so it's well fast, 650 horsepower. But because it's so much more heavy than a standard Cromwell, it's a little slower. And yes, he's got this guy now. Oh, took a round, but he punched around through the turret, and the Tiger's out the game. And now it's 2-on-1, but he did take a hit for 264 from the 88mm gun. Now the TNH is pushing. We don't know where that Challenger is. He's got to the edge of the plateau, using the plateau for covers. Or cover, I should say, rather than covers. And he's now getting to a position where he can actually do something about the Charioteer the moment he gets spotted. Now, is he up on the rise? There he is. Yes, he is. Oh, unfortunately just missed him. But the Challenger's kind of stuck now. We're waiting for the reload. He knows that too. One shot through the hull. 387 low roll. Can he get a high roll? Needs at least 2 shots. The Charioteer got down. He got into cover before we could get another shot in. But he is kind of trapped now. Oh no, that hit the building. I think he's a little excited at the moment, Deathnub. He's trying to snap these shots in. He has got the height advantage at the moment. I might actually go down. Yes, he's doing that. Okay. Whoa, that was a weird dismount. He almost flipped over front-wise. But now he's kind of caught this guy because the TNH 105-1000 is in the cap. And of course, this guy does have to get a reset, but we're coming up behind him and we've got his rear of his vehicle. One shot. It's a high roll, 397. Next shot will be a kill shot. And the TNH 105-1000 takes the opportunity to get the kill from the cap area. Here's the end of battle stats, and that was the first ace tanker for Deathnub in the Charioteer. You can tell it's his first because he's got the scrolls underneath. You only get that the first time, so congratulations. He's also got a fire for effect for doing more damage than hit points for his own vehicle, a bruiser medal for getting at least 5 critical hits. He got 5 exactly. And his win rate from that game was 6,534, which is super income and a bit more. So let's have a look at team score and see where he is. Well, he didn't get the highest damage in the game. That went to the 703-2 version 2 122. He got a high caliber for 4,163. So yes, Deathnub wasn't that far off actually getting a high caliber himself, because he came in second with 4,032, and the third place person was the T30 on the enemy team with 3,426. So he was well above that guy, but only a smidgen behind the top scorer, the high caliber for the 703-2. When it came to kills though, it was actually the T30 who did the best. He got 4 kills on the enemy team. 3 kills went to the 703-2 and to Deathnub in his Charioteer, and then 2 kills to quite a few enemy tanks in his own. The TNH 105-1000 managed to get a steel wall and 2 kills. So did the AMX 1357 and the E50. And on the enemy team, their SU 122-44, 50 TP, and their IS-3A. When it came to base XP, he's got second place on that one. The high scorer was the 703-2 with 1,334, 1,254 went to Deathnub, and 1,095 went to the AMX 1357, with the TNH 105-1000 getting 1,056. So 4 players, equally good, managed to get over 1,000 base in the game. He fired 20 rounds in that game. he managed to get 12 direct hits and 12 penetrations. You only get 30 rounds of ammunition with the 105mm, so he actually did rather well because he used up 2/3 of his ammo. 4,032 hit points of damage, of which 1,150 were at more than 300 meters, so he did do some long-range shooting. 3 hits received. He also received 2 penetrations and 1 non-penetration, again, so he was lucky that he didn't get penned in the game on that one, because that would have left him short on a few hit points. 7 enemy vehicles were damaged, 3 were killed, 582 hit points of spotting assist. He earned 53,039 credits on a premium account, and after repair, ammunition, resupply, and consumables, he took away a profit of 3,747 credits. 1,881 for the battle, and there was no multiplier, so I'm afraid that's all he took away, but he did get some free XP out of it as well. So that's the Charioteer. Let's have a quick look at the armor profile for this beast. Yes, you can see the kind of oversized turret. It is rather big. The turret, it sort of like extends over the sides of the Cromwell, and of course it's got the same Cromwell flat-sided armor, which is 63.5mm there, which effective armor is only, what, 65 at best. It's got some angled armor here, but it's only 30mm, which angles up to 52. Again here, 57.2, coming up to about 70, and the lower plate is 25mm, but so heavily angled, it actually gives about 60mm. The Cromwell crews, when they first saw these tanks, when they came back from the desert, they were a bit disappointed because they saw all these flat sides and thought, yes, it's going to be very easy for the enemy to penetrate us, so they weren't too happy. And of course, they wouldn't be happy either if they saw the turret from the Charioteer, because look at the armor, it's only 30mm thick. They had to lower the weight by taking away the armor just so they didn't have such a heavy turret, because otherwise they couldn't carry that big 20-pounder gun, because of course it was the 20-pounder gun that gave this tank the penetration ability on the Soviet heavies and the like, so they had to reduce the weight somehow, and they took it away from the turret. This turret does kind of stand out because it's so big, it's very thin, easy to penetrate. Just look at that, 25mm on the side. It gets less on the rear, 20mm on the rear. But of course it does have that counterweight, which isn't actually shown in the models. You can see here it says only 13mm. But in actual fact, there's a huge counterweight here to balance out against that gun. And so the effective armor at the rear of a Charioteer is actually a lot higher than it's supposed to have. You can see here again, 46mm actual, effective is up to about 55. It gets less towards the rear. And the rear of the vehicle altogether, 38mm, coming out at 38. And you can see on top that you can easily penetrate it with Arty. 16mm is the impacted armor, coming out about 20. So virtually any Arty will penetrate this thing from above. If we look at the live model, yes, easily penetratable. Any 105mm round hitting that will go straight through. In fact, any 75mm round for that matter would go through. Let's have a quick look at the modules. Okay, now you can see that the driver is on the left, which is standard for British tanks. The gunner's or driver's mate, which is actually, I mean, that's marked in, shows as the gunner. But I think if I remember correctly, the commander on this tank also had to had to do with the gunnery on this tank. If I remember correctly, I'll have to look that up afterwards, but I'm pretty sure that he did. And there's the loader on the other side. So the commander is also the gunner, I think. And this guy down here should be either the radio operator. It's showing in the title as being the gunner. But the gunner wouldn't be down in the hull. He'd be alongside the gun. So I think this is a bit of a mistake, actually, in the modules. But we can see that there's all these ammo racks in the floor of the tank. Huge amounts of ammo racks, actually for the 20-pounder gun in reality, but in the game they've modelled it for the 105. There's the engine at the back, sandwiched between 2 fuel tanks, and the transmission directly behind. So if you want to make this thing go bang, you aim for the rear of the vehicle, but not the actual total rear of the turret, because of course, as I said, that's where the counterweight is, and that should block the shell from going through. What you want to do is aim for the rear part of the turret, or aim for just underneath the turret, the main body of the tank, to actually get an ammo rack on this vehicle, and you should be able to get one. I hope you enjoyed that replay. Interesting, and congratulations to Deathnub for getting his first ace tanker. If you enjoyed that replay, please give this video a like, do subscribe to our channel, leave a little comment down below because it feeds the algorithm, and thank you for watching.